Okay, welcome to the second to the last class, if you can believe it, of the Painter's Blueprint, Unlocking Strong Composition and Value. Um, this has been a very chock-a-block full of so many lessons, and I want to start this class actually with the handout. What I did was I ran all of the handouts that we did through basically AI and asked it to summarize all of our lessons. So that handout you got through the email, if you're just like, this doesn't sound like Michael Orwick, it wasn't. I went through and edited it and, changed things around. But
Well,
it was kind of interesting to see. I'm sorry.
I have to say, Michael, when I read it, I'm like, wow, like this is excellent. This is just such a great checklist for the
Mhm.
basic.
And exactly
I
right.
was
Yeah, but I did
eating
have
up.
to go
Yeah.
through because AI did a good job of actually editing. I think I fed like 20 pages of notes into it of all
Wow.
the different things we've been talking about and covering. And I asked it to turn it into 3 pages. Initially I did 2 pages, but it edited out too much. So, anyways, how I like to start this week 6 often is just kind of a quick. Let's try to do this in about 15 minutes. Just kind of a quick summary of what we've covered, and I can just quickly read through just even the headlines. And I would love to check in with you guys because we're all coming into this class at different levels, right? Some of us are a little more on the beginner side, some of us are more advanced, some of us have a kind of an established style that we're working on, others are just open and experimenting and playing. And I would just love to know, like, what one or two things, because that's all after 6 weeks, if you take one or two things away from this that you're going to continue to work on, that you're going to take into your work, that is enough. I don't expect you guys to absorb all of this. Again, it's, drinking from the fire hose, right? And so I would love to just kind of get a quick synopsis of what it is that you found most valuable or you're most interested in continuing with. I'm also going to shamelessly promote my next classes, which will start in January. We're going to talk a little bit about color today. Well, no, actually, we're not. I'm going to show you, if we have time for a demo, I'm going to show you about ways that I fix a wipe away painting with opaque paints. So anyways, I would love to let's just read through. And if anybody's got a pen and paper and wants to write down some notes, I'm just going to write down the headlines. Um, and this is part 2 of discovering the story in nature, right? A lot of you guys were with me the last 7 weeks before this class. And so landscapes don't arrive with ready-made plot lines. They have no dialogue or human characters, yet they tell stories. The story emerges through interaction, movement, and mood, the way light touches a surface or how one element responds to another. That is where narrative lives in a painting. Oh man, thanks AI. You made me sound so smart. All right. So discovering the story in nature, the art of the question. I think that is what we should approach all paintings with, right? And that goes for the beginning, the middle, and the end of our painting process. It is so important to just continually ask questions. I've said this many times throughout my years of teaching, that my job is not so much to teach you techniques and tricks and shortcuts, but it's to teach you to ask better questions, because that's where your personal taste and style are going to come through, right? So if I ask an open-ended question of an image that I'm looking at, if it's plein air or if it's from photos, right? If we were all to paint from the same image, let's just pick one of Linda Camerata's just gorgeous sunset or sunrise photos, right? We're all going to approach it differently. So you ask the question of, what does this mean to me? What do I want to bring out in this? What speaks to me? I bring up the example of when we're, especially hopefully in the passenger seat of a car, but I do it a lot while I'm driving, unfortunately. But you just see a beautiful scene, right? And you take the photo, and then you look at the photo a week or two later, and you're just like, why the hell did I take this photo, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so what then you start to go, okay, it was because of this tree in the distance that was silhouetted, or it was because of the highlights and lowlights, or the shadows, or just the colors in the sky, or whatever it was, right? So asking the question, what drew me to this? Why the heck would I want to spend 2 to 10 hours painting this picture? Right? Write that down.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is we get lost in the minutia, right? We get lost in the photo, which is giving us way too much information. It is so important that we track back into the why. The why did I take this photo? Okay. The art of the question. Shift from telling to inviting in your visual narratives. Encourage ambiguity, curiosity, and emotional resonance through composition and subject matter. Okay. So we talk a lot about that we are not locked into the reference photo, right? Especially if you're taking it from a moving car. Right? There's street signs, there's fences, there's all these things. So just figure out what it is you're trying to capture. And what I'll do oftentimes is look for other references that help me, whether that's color schemes, whether that's emotional content. I mean, it literally can be a song, it can be a poem. It doesn't always have to be visual. All right, number 3, tools to lead the eye. Use visual cues to guide the viewer's attention, leading lines, light direction, and color contrast. Okay. Number 4, design elements that bring a painting to life. We have line, shape, and I wanted to clarify this. When I say shape, do you guys just think circles, squares, rectangles, or do you see just big, dark, amorphous things as shapes? I like to think of them as almost like amoebas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when I say shape, you guys don't just hear, he means squares, rectangles, and circles.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good. I just wanted to clarify that. I was literally thinking about that the other day. I don't know if I clarified that. Number 4, design elements that bring paintings to life. We've got line, shape, color, value, texture, and space, right? We talked a lot about space the last couple of weeks. That creates depth and relationships, apply overlap, scale, and atmosphere. Additional principles that we can use are abstract patterns, variety within unity, which is really important if you don't want to, sorry, my British friend, but I always talk about the fact that when I go out into nature, I have this tendency to turn it into a British garden. Very organized and systematic, or maybe even a French garden, right? Where all the trees are equally spaced and all the plants, and I just clean up nature. And then I step back and I'm just like, no, you're painting nature. You've got to have balance and rhythm, but you've got to interject abstraction into that, right? You've got to break that up. Well, it depends on what you're painting. If you're painting a British garden, then maybe you don't. But so looking for the abstract patterns that are in there and looking for the irregularity. And a lot of times with that, I'm looking for beautiful shapes that I can overdevelop. I'm thinking of like Alphonse Mucha. Do you guys know his work?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got to put some pictures by Alphonse Mucha. You guys all know his work. He's very, very famous painter.
Art Nouveau.
Art Nouveau. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Art Nouveau is actually what I want to focus on with my demo today.
Actually, I have one of his famous pieces right up there. So, oh, the light. But yeah, the he painted the Four Seasons. He did a lot of like
Yes.
women sort of but
Yeah.
with all of this like filigree kind of stuff. I have a tarot deck of all
So
of
does my
his work,
daughter.
actually.
Mhm.
Oh, no way. Yeah, because
Yeah, she
it's
just got it when she
incredible
was
art.
visiting. When she was in Europe last time. Yeah, Alphonse Mucha. If you want to see the
Yeah.
absolute pinnacle of human created design, visit Alphonse Mucha. I'll post some of his work. But I mean, it's a lot of portraiture. But holy cow, just the amount of design and really, but keeping a naturalistic element into his painting, just swirling lines, like a love of vines and leaves and just swirly, beautiful shapes. Yeah, and Art Nouveau just meant new art. That's all literally it translates to, which is so funny. Then we go to tools for creating depth, lines, proportion, overlapping, for shortening, value shifts, and clarity, right? That's literally what we worked on last week.
Michael, can I ask a question, please? What are you reading from?
The handout that was on the email last night.
Last night. That's the same as one that we got before.
It's the summarized version of it.
Okay,
This is
because,
the summarized version of all of the notes.
all right, okay.
Yeah, so if you haven't read any of the previous emails, you can get most of the info here.
Well, I usually read along with you and I can't find where you are.
Sorry, yeah, and I realized I hadn't saved it to my computer, so I had to go recreate it real quick. That's why I wasn't there for the morning conversation.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. Foreground, middle ground, and background. Something we've been talking about. Positioning the focal point. Transition between space. Achieving compositional balance. And then I do a highlight on foreground techniques, which is, again, what we were kind of talking about last week. Then we go to atmospheric perspective. The importance of design over details. I think this is a huge one for us. I think Darlene Crow, this was a huge, I'm not making fun of you, Darlene. I just think that you just realized that if the design works and you can do the big shapes, that the other things come, right?
Yeah, the details, it's hard for me to figure out what to leave out. I look at it and I think that's way too much stuff. How do I pare this down? And it's a struggle. Yeah.
And it really goes back to what's the question, right?
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah. And yeah, that is probably one of the most difficult things, even for me, even a guy who paints pretty quick, pretty loose, a lot of the time, especially when doing the wipe away, is where do I put the design? Where do I put the detail? Is so important.
You printed, you sent to us a beautiful reference of a forest with a lake and some flowers in the front. And there's a lot in it. And I would love to see how you would approach that to keep what you need, and how do you eliminate, what you don't need, because I look at that and I think it's fabulous. I love it. I have no idea how to approach something like that.
If you can find that, so was that on the references that I print?
Yes, it's the one with this has some purple flowers in the front of it and evergreen trees on it.
Oh, yeah, that's a painting or an image I've been meaning to paint for years. Yeah.
And then how do you approach the evergreen trees so they actually look like evergreen trees, and how do you get those flowers in there without, just the whole thing, that whole reference I think is fabulous, and I look at it and I would love to paint it, and I would have no clue how to really approach that. So
yeah, I think that is also going to lead into color.
And
So that one is maybe one we'll save for the next class.
Oh, good.
Starting in January.
That would be neat.
Always be selling.
Well, you did mention flowers at one point a while back about maybe in one class you will approach some flowers or show us how you approach flowers. And that would be a really good thing. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Are you okay if we save that since we don't have time for this class?
Yeah, sure. That would be
I
fine.
think that is a great, and that'll give me the excuse to finally paint that. That's a picture that I think I probably took like 5-6 years ago. And it's one that just keeps showing up in my like
that's a fabulous hook. Now I'm hooked.
Good. And maybe we can do one of those together and just see how we all do it differently. So that'd be great. Building your landscape foundation first. So this should have been higher up in the list, but thinking of a painting like building a house, start with your foundation, value patterns and design, right? That's a lot of what I've been working on. And then I wanted to show you today how I'm going to go back and refix my foundation. Add structure, composition, and relationships. Finish with details, right? We all love details. I just joke that they're like the little marshmallows in our desserts, right? We all want to eat them, but then you got to save them. And, so they're the special thing. I'm just thinking of like the cereals I used to eat as a kid that had, like 20 little marshmallow bits. And if I ate them all at the beginning, so gross. I can't believe I ate that crap. Maybe that's why I don't have a memory now.
You ate too many
Marshmallow poisoning.
Marshmallow poisoning from breakfast cereal.
Oh.
Ugh, welcome to America, kids.
Yeah.
But anyways, you want to save the detail because that is kind of the fun part, right? That's the part that really brings the painting together. It's so fun when I'm painting like a quick draw, event where I have an hour and a half to paint and it's all messy and crazy. And I'm just building the painting. And then all of a sudden in the last 10-15 minutes, I start putting in the detail and I can feel the crowd, like the audience just going, there it is. It's coming together, right? And it doesn't take much. I mean, it depends on what kind of style you're leaning towards, if you're more photorealistic or whatever. But, for me, just a little detail goes a long way. Design is the foundation. Details add charm, but too many overwhelm and too few leave the work incomplete. Focus on the motif. Establish patterns of light, right? I'm looking at you a little bit now, Cheryl.
Yes.
Is that you sometimes like that painting behind you and the painting you've been working on this last couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Where you're working on big shapes, you're working on lights and darks. When you and I started together 100 years ago, you were painting things constantly. And now I see you really looking into shapes and values, and it's really helping your work be more cohesive. And I think that a lot of us, when we are working, will lean towards painting things. Like now I'm painting this, area over here, and it's this bush. And now I'm painting this, and we're painting things separately, and we're thinking of them as things. I really, 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 really urge you to think of them as shapes, values, and colors. Stop thinking about things, and it will really help your work. I saw your sketches that you were sharing, which were awesome, of the Dutch farmers. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh, what a great sketch. What a cool, illustration. But then I also look at him like, oh, what a nightmare, because you're going to start to break those elements into their independent pieces. How do we make those feed together and become a cohesive scene? A motif unifies the painting and strengthens the composition. Sorry, my print is little tiny font here. All right, number 12. Can't believe I have so many of them. Building your landscape foundation. Oh, the foundation first. Simplified design, selective details. That's really important. It's called SDSD. Selective design, selective details. right? Figuring out what's important is so important. Simplified design. Oh, that's that. Keep the mantra in mind. Simplified design, selective details. Focus on essential elements first. I always have to remind myself the details will come. You guys can see the painting behind me, the big blue sky. I finally finished it last night. I hope. I'm going to show it to the client and see if they like it. But I really was getting caught up in details. You guys can't see it, but underneath those rows, you can actually see the independent grapevines growing from the ground, twisting and turning up into there. Let me see if I can actually bring it closer to the camera. Oh, it's huge. It's 3 foot by 4 foot. Let's see. It's so big I can't see what I'm seeing, but
So nice.
if you look underneath the vines,
Yeah, we can see it.
let me see if I can see the other side.
Oh God, Michael. Beautiful it is.
Right. So
Nice.
those elements just kept getting in my way because I was so excited to paint these fence posts and those. Can you guys see the little?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry, you just gave me a lecture, but that's how I like to paint.
Yeah, but what I want you to
Yeah.
do is reserve that detail
For the very end.
for the very end, and you can paint those over the top really easily.
That's true.
And what I like about that is, again, if we look at that image, focus down here, camera. You can see how it's very loose and abstract from this distance, right? Just big shapes, big value shifts, big color patterns. But now look over here, camera. I don't know how to train my camera where to look. I guess I could just turn it. That if the viewer is excited by it from a distance, like we're seeing it now, then they'll step up, right? They'll get closer and they'll find the detail. So the detail is those marshmallows in our cereal. That's the payoff, right? That is the special little treat that we reward the viewers with. But if it's all detail and that's the only thing that we're trying to use to bring them in, this doesn't work.
You didn't list a couple of things that were important to me. One was painting.
Yeah, so let me step back and I'll start with you. So yeah, what I would like, again, I'm gonna even grab a pen and paper here, and I would love to hear what stood out to you. What are things that are not on these notes? Again, this was 20 pages down to 3, and all the different things we've discussed. And then I would also, if you have a second or a thought, I'd love to hear things that you'd like to expand upon for the next class.
Okay.
That really helps me. So that was Jada. Are you done eating lunch? Can we see your face?
No, I finished. Well, you're online, right? You're recording, so I'll stay off for a while.
Okay.
I've been around this block a lot in the old days, so I'm maybe responding to things that are not everybody's. Mood and story were definitely 2 that you clued me back into, and I really like having that reminding. But 2 things: painting every day, or the importance of painting every day or as often as possible. I don't think you put on the list. And techniques. You do cover technical stuff. I mean, I've been very interested in how you approach it with acrylic and oil and putting those together. And those are as important. I mean, they should be right up there in terms of at least one category should be allowed. But everything else was all great. There's nothing that you did that you didn't, that was useless. Everything was good.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and you were right. But techniques for me it's a tricky one, because I do not want to teach how to become Michael Orwick. I want to teach how to be Mange. I want to teach how to be Eloise and how to be Regini. I want to share techniques that you can add to your toolkit.
Yeah, well, that's essentially, it's how do you paint an acrylic? What kind of acrylic? What do you put underneath to get that oil to? Yeah, not so much the end effect. It's how to use the materials.
Absolutely, and like I even felt guilty because I mean, I've been brainstorming for the last couple of days of, how do we best utilize these last couple of classes? And I'm like, I never even showed how I lay out my palette or what colors I choose and why. So these will be all things that, again, we'll continue to expand upon in the winter months, where we're really focusing on color and temperature and all of that. How do we bring that into the forefront with these other foundational tools? But yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Jada. I think that is really important, and
seeing your
I like
work,
that you like what I've shared. That's really nice.
and seeing your work, seeing what you've achieved is
Exactly.
also part of it. I mean, it's a big part.
As long as you enjoy watching me struggle, yeah, it's
Knowing
even
that you
today,
struggle is important to us.
Yeah,
How you
yeah.
solve problems. Yeah.
Okay, so that would be today's demo, is going to show you a painting that I did last term. It's the looking out at the coast through the trees and going down a trail. And I've sat on that underpainting, that wipe away, and just had so much time to love it, hate it, love it, hate it, and just go, okay, there's things that I wish I had done differently. And I wanted to show you, even using that example from last week, the wipe away that we did the acrylic painting, and going back through and literally re-listening to the class and just going, yeah, I thank you, Linda Morgan O'Connor, but I don't need that tower in the middle. It was very centrally placed and I couldn't believe I didn't see it as so obstructive as it was, right? So how do I fix those things? So we'll talk about that. So anyways, Jada, perfect answer. Thank you very much. What was something that you would like to expand upon, or that you would like to learn in the next class or experiment with?
I think the most important thing for me is just the fact that I am painting on a regular basis. That's it.
Perfect.
In a great environment. Yes, I must add, your whole class, the way you run this, the way you have the Padlet, that's all really important stuff, which I don't know whether you want to put it on your list, but it's really important that we have a group, even though you don't see my face very often, I admit, but I am tuning in.
No,
and
I like to say community more than group.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, actually, I like to say gang, but I haven't made you guys get tattoos yet.
That's it.
No, I really appreciate that. And I mean, that's so important, even to me. Again, I'm a very social person working in a very unsocial situation. My company is my dog laying on my feet right now. And I really appreciate your guys' feedback, both on my paintings, as well as while I'm painting, as well as how you guys are really helping each other. I think that's just the best. I love it. All right. Pam Howard, are you available? Not sure.
Yes, I am.
Great. I would love to hear what you thought was maybe most useful, or something you'd like to expand upon in your work.
Well, I don't know how to do wipeaways. There we go.
Nope, that's fine.
And the
And do you
ability to
oils or acrylics?
oils.
Okay.
And the way that you the painting that you did in the value painting that has the tower in it, the way you did that in black and white, I can understand that. And then when you put the mist all over it and take all the detail out, drives me insane.
Yeah. No, totally. And that was a huge thing for me, is I came from I studied illustration in school, right? Where you meticulously draw everything out. And then I felt like you're just coloring it in. I felt like I was never a painter. I felt like I was a colorer. I was just filling in the lines, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been hesitant, and that's why the wipe away kind of works for me. And even the black and white acrylic, because it's done so fast, right? I did that black and white underpainting in 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour. I think it was 45 minutes if I'm looking at the timer on that part of the video. And yes, the detail is there, but it's all implied. right? I never meticulously worked on it. It was just a big brush. I'm just sketching it in. And yeah, there was some of the accidental detail, the implied detail that I felt like I was losing, and it made me a little bit sad. But if I've painted it once, I can paint it twice, right? Not always.
I agree with that. If I paint it once, I can paint it twice. I started on watercolor, and watercolor is not forgiving, so you always have to do it more than once.
Right.
And so I can do acrylic and oil more than once, and that's okay.
Yeah. So going back to like when I would draw these ultra detailed, representations, and I was so scared to lose like any amount of detail. I was scared to lose the pattern or, the minutia, the detail. And it really became important to me to sometimes just to draw the least amount of detail I could, right? The literal blueprint, just the biggest shapes possible so that I knew where things will come. If you are writing anything down, Pam Howard, write down the detail will come.
I am learning to, I come from a science background, a genetics background in a lab. And so I'm learning much like what I used to do in the lab. The detail always is the last part. The big stuff is collecting, everything that you need, and that translates to collecting everything that you need on that surface in order to be able to do the detail. Learning to do back to front, learning to do I've learned that color doesn't matter as long as you get the value right, because you can always put something back over it to change the color, as long as you got the value right.
Exactly right. The design first.
Yeah.
You can never, ever paint your way out of bad design. For those of you that are writing things down, you cannot paint your way out of bad design. And that was what I was doing last week, right? With the tower in the middle. You guys can see it. Like I took the tower out, I just chopped it down because I had this weird line literally right in the middle of the painting.
Yeah.
And, I was just too into it. I wasn't stepping away. I didn't take my time. I didn't do thumbnails, right? We had a great time just experimenting back and forth, carving away and creating an implied detail. But I just had to step back, and I literally had to take white paint and cover up huge areas and literally just clear cut trees and clear out paths and redecide what the painting was meant to be about. And so yeah, no, that's perfect. The wipe away technique is brutal. For some of us, it's kind of we jump into it really quickly. I think Gail and Linda Morgan O'Connor are two of the best examples of students I've ever had that just took to it naturally, right?
Yeah.
I think you guys are probably dyslexic and you don't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons it works with me. I do find that people with either diagnosed or undiagnosed dyslexia, that there's something in there that just helps. But what I do with the wipe away is I'm just looking for the big shapes, big values. You can take it to ultimate detail, with which both Linda and Gail are doing. They take it to the big shapes. You'll see if they showed the process that it's big shapes, and then they are getting in there with the Q-tips and smaller, twisting up their paper towels and really getting in there. You don't have to do that. And the fact is, Pam, is that I've got a lot of students. I've got a lot of students through the 20 years that I've been teaching that have gone on and are showing in galleries and never, ever have done wipe away again, right? It's not for everybody. It's just something that works for my backwards brain. So if wipe away isn't something that's working for you, then what I want you to do going forward when you're watching me do a wipe away is going, oh, he's just establishing big shapes and values in the way that works weirdo brain.
Yeah. Well, let's just say that tasks at hand for me are, I can learn that. I just have to figure out how. I really
Absolutely.
can.
And it doesn't come naturally to most of us. Even me, I worked on it for a whole summer where I was doing 2 to 3 little paintings a day, right? Just little 8 by 10 sketches over and over and over. And, sometimes I wasn't using wipe away, but other times I was, or a lot of times it's a combination thereof. A lot of times what I like to do is, and I'll probably do that in my demo today, is I will actually kind of cover the surface with a lighter value, semi-transparent, and then I will go through and kind of draw it with, like, let's say, a burnt umber, and get my big shapes, almost like a cartoon, like a big sketch, fill in some areas that I want, and then I will just take a big brush and wipe that out, and then I have kind of a more sketch / in between, and then I can go through and clean up those edges.
That I can do. Okay.
Cool.
That might actually appeal to her more.
Yeah, and I should probably show that more often, because that is I think a more universal technique that could work. Anything else, Pam?
Let's see. So yeah, the cast is making it so I can't do a whole lot yet these days, but it's coming. So that's why I just do videos and don't do any more painting. But
perfect.
Yeah.
All right, here's your homework for this winter months before you get that cast off. What I want you to do is take a couple clear sheets of something, like any kind of plastic, and I want you to put them over some of your favorite paintings in a book or whatever. Take you can use a wipe away marker or a permanent marker, and I just want you to look for the big design shape. So you put it over, and you're just going to look for the big design, the big values that are going to create structure in the paintings that you really enjoy. It's such a useful little sketching technique that you can use.
Yeah, that's one of those techniques I was talking about. There you go.
There you go. Perfect. And you don't have to literally copy over the top, but I've done that, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, what I perceive as this beautiful, ornate, detailed painting, when I just break it down into, like, the no-tan, the black and the white version of it, or a limited value, and just look for how is this artist that I so admire connecting the lights and the darks and creating a sense of design and a foundational element.
You could actually do that with the thing you showed earlier with the values. 1, sky, 2, ground, and then the trees. Do it in just 4 values, 4 grays.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you don't want to buy clear sheets or whatever, just do quick sketches with, like, just what Gail said. I have they're all behind me over here, but I have pens that are 3 values or 4 value little sets that you can buy, just gray pens, right?
Saran wrap. You can use saran wrap.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, you can use saran wrap. You can use I use the little
the page protectors.
Yeah, the page protectors.
Yeah, I like to use those.
And you can, so whatever it is, tracing paper, but you even can just do it as a sketch on the side. But just do little tiny sketches and just look for the design elements. And what you're going to see is how the artist is connecting and unifying. Even if we look again back at this, I don't know how to make the camera look over there, but you see how, like, the darks all connect. And I even went through, these clouds were much more splotchy in the reference, but I tried to connect as many as I could and tried to figure out what, because this is such a direct scene with horizontal lines, is how can I invite some angles into the sky, right? And so you're just thinking about the design and the underlying values. So little tiny sketches in your notepad while you're laying down, sitting down. I do this a lot. My wife watches a lot of shows that I don't really need to pay very much attention to, and I'll just have my sketch pad there, and I'm just half we call it side-by-side play. We're together in the room, we're talking about our calendars, we're talking about our daughter and our dog, and but I'm sketching, she's watching her show, and yeah, it's just half-brained, but I'm still processing artistic information. And that's my time off. That's my, after painting for 5 hours. But it's fun for me because I don't care. Nobody's ever going to see these little sketches. And a lot of time it's literally just a pen. Okay. Regini, I know that you've been with me for years and you're probably tired of me asking you these questions. But your work is really evolving. I mean, you're such a colorist, and I hope that never goes away because I love your paintings. But lately you've becoming more of a, not dare I say tonalist, but you're becoming more muted with your colors and a little more earthy. And I'd love to see what stood out to you this semester and what you would like to continue with.
Yeah, Michael, I have really learned a lot about the true paintings and mostly the atmospheric perspective and also the color and the temperature. But I feel I still struggle with painting the fields of grass or blades of grass, the foreground and the trees. So I want to learn that. I don't know where I'm going wrong. I have a difficulty painting, especially the foreground and all these highlights of the grasses, texture. I'm not good in that. I want to really learn that.
Yeah, it's funny because I look at your work and I always think of you as painting skies. Like I think you're one of the best at painting just these glorious, colorful, beautiful skies. But yeah, you're right. The foreground, it's tricky, isn't it? Because a lot of times if it's too much interest, then all of a sudden that becomes the focal point. But you want just enough that it leads us in and it supports the sky, it supports the middle ground. They all read together. And I know that Sandy's not here today, but yeah, that's been something that we've been emailing back and forth about. And it's, yeah, what's enough, what's not enough, what's too much, right? And yeah, and the trick or the problem I find with myself is a lot of times when I get into that foreground area, even, well, here, I'll grab it. See if I can get this guy off the easel here. Is I wanted, you remember when I stopped, but I wanted just enough detail in that foreground area, but not so much that it, really separates, especially since it's a hazy, foggy morning, right? So it really does come down to texture and what's side by side. And like these, these are done with a little teeny tiny brush, right? Okay. And I'll save that information. And I probably need to go back and revisit it because I was doing wet into wet and it gets kind of mushy. So yeah, it is a trick. I kind of talk about using as big a brush as possible, as long as possible. But the truth is that there's a time and a place for little brushes. And a lot of times that is towards the end. But my problem, and something I preach about, is again, we don't paint things, we paint value, shapes, and colors. But towards the end, maybe we do paint things a little bit more, right? We do paint grass, we do paint specific flowers, we do paint, edges of a rock, right? But trying to stay away from that for as long as possible and then getting to that at the end can be really useful. So there is a time and a place for those little delicate brushes, those little liner brushes and everything else. So, but for me, it's like, how do I not overdo it? Because once I pick up that magical little liner brush, right, I'm just like grass, 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 little flower, little flower. And I've got to tell my brain, stop. It's still about shapes and values. They're just much smaller, right? I'm not really painting grass. I'm painting the illusion of grass. It's not up to me to paint grass. It's up to the viewer to see grass. So how do I help them do that? So yeah, that is a trick and something I'm constantly working on, especially because I paint pretty loose and airy and atmospheric and all those things. So yeah, I will write that down. Foreground, detail. And what's the question? What is the question about foreground and detail?
Yeah, I mainly the texture, how the grass blades come forward, and also the when you see the fields of grass or fields of flowers, how the different shades come, and that thing I really struggle.
Perfect. Yeah, that's something you and I are both struggling with at the same time. And I think everybody would agree. And I want to show you guys something. Let's see if it works. I'm going to put my thumb up. I got to leave it up for a little while. Can you guys see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's see if this works.
That's cool.
All right, so we have a new addition. And I think you can also do this. That's not seeing it. All right, but anyways, oh, and you can just raise your hand if you have a question now. But you got to leave it up for about 3 seconds. Okay, and there, do you see a hand on my face over my scene?
Yes.
So, when we're looking at your guys' work and giving, you guys can do that. And now I can see who would like me to comment on their work. So anyways, we have a couple new things on our little Padlet there. All right, we are taking a long time. I said like 3 or 4 minutes here. Let's do 2 more. And so I'm just going to leave it up to you. Who here has something that has really kind of stood out to them and you found really interesting and that you're excited about working on? Please raise your hand for 3 seconds. Let's see if it works. It's not working. Only I get to do it.
Maybe you're the only one. Yeah.
Oh, that would be dumb. All right, Manje, I saw your hand up.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so what really stood out for me is working with mood, atmospheric perspective, and light. What I find to struggle with is the direction of the light, like this last painting I was trying to make. In the picture, the light comes from the right side, and I have a difficulty to translate it, not so much in the shapes, but through the trees. You can see a little bit of the light, and then there's this atmospheric perspective because the path leads up, and I get very confused in how to paint that. And the other thing is difficult for me is to not get too tight, to loosen up, and letting go of the reality of what I see, and just loosen up and think those shapes, like what you just actually said to all of us, think shapes and not tree or grass. But I start okay, and then I fall back into, oh yeah, and there's some grass here, and then there's the leaves, and it's my brain goes to what I see in front of me, even if I start off right.
Yeah, and that is literally a human thing. I do find that women, and this without at the risk of sounding a little bit sexist, but I think there's an evolutionary reason that women see detail more than men oftentimes, and it's because women were the gatherers oftentimes, where men were the hunters traditionally. Again, not always, of course, but I find that women see color better. I think because they were gathering ripe vegetables and ripe fruit and looking for things, whereas men see big shapes and change in shapes. And I think that's just like game moving across the scene. You know what I mean? We're attracted to movement. We're attracted to change. I think men sometimes can see values better. And again, I think that's a hunting thing versus where again, women see colors better and are more attracted to colors in paintings oftentimes. Again, I hope that didn't sound sexist or anything, but I'm always
it's a
curious
scientific fact.
It's based
I mean, I even think about that and like, why am I attracted to creeks and forests and fields? I'm like, oh, because that was the best place that a human could live. Like, right? That's where our ancestors would set up camp. Like, we have fresh water, we have fish, we have trees with food. You know what I mean? And I just think there's an evolutionary reason that we're attracted to certain things. So yeah, what I wrote down is that you really enjoyed learning about mood, atmosphere, and light. Your questions are how to see light, and especially the direction of light, and how to not paint too much detail. And I saw when you were talking about detail, literally everybody was nodding. And that is all of us. We all are attracted to detail. That is something that, so just again, going back to the whole point of the last, what's this, week 6 plus the 7 weeks before, so 13 weeks is all about the story, right? So it's just remembering what's the story. And again, I go back to the example of we've all sat next to the person who wants to tell us a story, but adds way too much detail. And before we get to even close to the end of the story, we're so bored. You guys are probably all thinking that right now about what I'm saying, but but it's important to like, okay, what is the point of the story that I'm telling you, right? How can I do it in 1 minute, 3 minutes? You know, if I'm trying to tell you a 30-minute story, I know that my brain is wandering, you know, and so how do we get to the point quickly? And again, I think of poetry, short story, long form story, right? They're all great. They're all really wonderful. But what are we trying to do? And sometimes at the beginning of a long form story, there'll be a short story that just hooks us, right? That gets us in there, the foreshadowing, the point of the, you know, the lessons we're going to be learning, all of that. So how do you get to that? So usually that's not in the detail. But yeah, I want you to write down poetry, short story, long form story, right? I want you to continue to, once you see yourself getting to the long form story in your painting, draw an arrow back. Go back to the poetry. Right? I mean, we've all, you know, had to study the Odyssey, right? The Iliad and the Odyssey, right? This huge, long story. But we've all had the teacher that explains it. Man goes on trip, has a lot of problems, comes back a different person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what is the abbreviated version? And then we fill in the details of, like, you know, if you were telling the Odyssey, you'd be like, yeah, but they met a Cyclops. That's pretty awesome. Or there were sirens and they, you know, wrecked their ship and had to tie the captain to the mast, right? There's different elements that are attracting us to that story. But if somebody sat down and just like, let me tell you the Odyssey, I'd be like, no. I did not want to listen to this. Okay, perfect, my Jay. And Linda, were you holding your hand up just to show that works, or you got some?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing that really helped me in class was really encouraging us to do the sketching and the thumbnails. And I've discovered 2 things. First of all, that I really love sketching. I really enjoyed the result of the sketches as much as anything. But then I also really discovered and noticed that sometimes just a small difference in those sketches was making a big difference in design. And that was kind of a revelation for me. Just sometimes just the smallest thing, a little bit of shift. And a little shift here, a little shift there.
Are you even talking about horizontal versus vertical from time to time?
Yes, exactly. And I had taken one, and and this is the other thing, and I'm going to make a little circle here, but my suggestion for next class, excuse me, is that we always reserve one session or demo to devote to the almost there references, because
Can you
and
say that
then
again?
taking those and
One class to do what?
to work with almost there references. That was one of the most valuable
Yes.
sessions for me. I came away from that and I had such a much better idea about simplifying ways to alter searching for the best design. And it really made a big, I was able to find in a single reference 4 different paintings that I could do. And that's gold because it's so hard to find a good reference to begin with. And then if you can make it a good design, and then if you can get 4 good designs out of it, that's really gold, you know? So I just would love always to have one class each semester or each session. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I really was happy to have been encouraged to really take my time, slow down, take my time and do the preliminary sketches and really try and see the different designs that are possible.
I so appreciate it. Sorry. Go ahead, Linda.
I would like to echo that. I agree with you completely because I'm looking at my sketchbook. I cannot sit down for class now because Michael, about 3 classes back, you said, well, are you making sketches? And I go, yes, I have, like 4 or 5 sketchbooks around, but they were all like, half full. But now this one only has about 3 or 4 pages in the back of the book that, and I have a book of sketches here. And I did a painting this week, yesterday. I finished it and posted it, but I kept looking at it and I go, something's wrong with it. And I go, well, I didn't make a sketch of that. So it's a really good habit to do, to make that little sketch because it shows you what is not. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you guys saw how much I wrestled with this because I didn't have an idea. It was fun. It was fun to just bash my way through it like a Neanderthal. But even after class, even after reworking it during class, I stepped back, finally got my distance, maybe went and walked the dog and just went, why do I have a tower in the middle? Like, why? I know so much. I know better than that. And
that tower started out as a tree, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was a tree in the end too.
Yeah, it would have been nice to like have a tree that moved off to the side in the middle. The thing that bothers me is those 2 identical ones on the right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's beautiful, Michael. Your work is beautiful. It's lovely.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, and that's just it is, I feel pressure when I'm working to produce quickly because I don't want to bore you. I want to keep the class moving. But at the same time, just going, and I thought it was so important to show you that even after class was over and even after I'd colored it up and everything else, I was happy in the moment. But you get that distance and that time, and there's ways to fix. There's ways to get back in there. Not with watercolor, probably. I mean, yeah, your guys are going to tell me you can rub it off with rubbing alcohol and all the things. Don't care. Stupid watercolors.
I agree.
But with acrylics and oils, you can definitely get back in and repair. And if I had, if I was painting that by myself, not in front of you guys, I would have taken more time with the acrylic underpainting and stepped back and taken a 5-minute break to get fresh eyes on it, all those things. So yeah, it's so fun. So I really appreciate that, Linda. That is so good that you're filling up sketchbooks. And again, that's a lot of times what I'm doing when I'm watching TV. So I'm like literally even half of my brain activated almost sometimes helps, where it becomes more instinctual and I'm all of a sudden balanced, and all these things that I've been ingraining in my little teeny tiny brain over these years becomes, that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for the instinct. I know Darlene talks about, she learned something and it's not there. She forgets, 2 paintings later. And it's not a linear progression. we are constantly learning, forgetting, learning, you know, and it just takes, I feel like it's bashing your head against a wall sometimes, but we just pick up on little bits. And that's why I don't want you guys to feel like, oh, Mike taught me 16 different things, you know, in this handout this semester. I only want you to get 1 or 2. 16 is too many. But because I've got 16 of you in this class, each one of you might be something slightly different. So again, they're just tools. Don't expect them all to come all at once. Again, I've been teaching. That's one of the reasons I teach, is to hear my own voice and to clarify my thoughts. And that's what we do through painting as well. So it's listening, it's writing, it's doing, and it's sharing, right? If you have somebody that will listen, share what you're learning. It really, really helps. And that's also where writing it down really helps, because it's almost like sharing. You're sharing it with the page. Anybody else have anything that that really stood out that you'd like to hear or share before we take a little break and then we're going to go to our Padlet page and do a quick check on who needs help, because next week is going to be almost all just looking at your work and really talking about your final assignments. So anybody else have anything from the class that really stood out?
Well, I tend to write notes on my sketches also. And after I paint them, I might go back and write, you know, like colors that I use sometimes and what I liked or didn't like about it, what I thought was the good or the failure in it. I just write notes to myself.
Yeah. Just even something like this page, I will often just take that off and blue tape it, you know, painter's tape onto the back of my canvas. A lot of times it's like, did I gesso this or did I oil prime it or did I use a primer? Just so I know how the paintings are doing. But a lot of times too, it's a final critique, or it is, as I'm starting the painting, I handed out that checklist, you know, and again, what's the story? What's the main elements? And then being able to check back in with that is so useful. And again, I would like to say that I, you know, really came up with this information on my own. Got a buddy of mine, Anton Pavlenko, who I just think is just excelling. He's just, and I knew him, you know, from the very beginning of his career up until now, where he's showing in great galleries and doing amazing things and winning plein air competitions. And he does his thumbnail sketches every time. And he also writes notes to himself every time. He used to take out a little tiny sketchbook, and now he takes out a huge sketchbook with him. And he does his thumbnails really big. They're really loose and gestural. I actually have, I asked him permission to shoot video of his sketchbook in the last show that I visited him at. And so I'll see if I can share that. But yeah, he just really realized early on the value of what's the question, what do I want to focus on, what do I want to bring forward in this painting, and then a quick couple, 3, 4 thumbnail sketches to work out the ideas. And the guy paints big. I mean, we're talking 30 by 40 and plein air, 30 by 40.
And I'm starting to work more from the sketch. So when I paint, so I'll put the photo reference aside. I might pick it up once or twice, you know, but it's off to the side. It's not my primary reference anymore. Once I've got the sketch I want, I'm painting from the sketch now.
And I do the same thing.
Yeah, that's a different,
use the
reference,
that's do my wipe away and then put it away.
Yep.
I look for darks and lights and things like that, and direction of light. I try to put that in my sketch. And so I don't look at the photograph hardly at all. I might change the whole color of the painting to.
Right. Why not?
Love it. Love it. All right, Kim Hunt, I'm going to put you on the spot since I haven't got to talk to you very much this term. I don't know how much you were able to tune in all of the time, but what are something that you really picked up on? And then we're going to take a break after that.
For me, it's working with the big shapes and the value and getting that part down. Definitely, that's the most valuable to me. And then having that light right as well, having where's the light coming from, and then showing it properly in the painting. So yeah, that's
perfect. And I can see that over your shoulder in that little painting on the windowsill. Like you can just see how beautifully that reads. It's just a simple, value pattern with gorgeous transitions, and it really reads well. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, anyways.
I was going to ask you, what's that artist's name again?
Anton, Anton, and then Pavlenko, Pavlenko.
Thank you.
Yeah, his work is, I mean, sometimes this paint is almost a quarter-inch, half-inch thick. He paints super fast with a huge, I mean, he squeezes out a whole tubes of paint of the colors when we go out and paint. He just, he goes for it. But they're beautiful, and I just love where he's going. And he's so experimental. He has a whole like 6 months where he just did almost abstracts, and then but still looking at, you know, in nature. And then yeah, it's been fun to watch his evolution, and I know he'll continue to evolve as he continues to paint and play. But he's inspiring for me, especially since, you know, yeah. The gallery called me one day. It's like, would you help this guy? He needs help. He's just starting. He's good, but he doesn't know anything about anything. And now, boy, he's off to the races and really killing it. And it's great. But it's because he puts in the work. He does the pre-thought. He paints a ton, paints so much, and he's fearless. And it's really kind of proven a point to me. And whenever I get down on my work, or I feel like I'm not painting enough, or I'm not being expressive or experimental enough, you know, it's fun that I get to be inspired by somebody that I was meant to be helping a couple years ago.
Super cool.
Michael, I have to say that painting behind you of the vineyard, that is amazing.
Yeah.
It's better than, I don't know, I just love it. I absolutely love it. And all of the detail and the underneath that you showed us, that is so interesting to look at the sunshine and then the shadows and the details in the shadows, and you did it. You did it. I just I want somebody to look at my work and say, "Oh, you must be a student of Michael's."
Yeah, but normally they'd have said you have blue in it. You can't be one of Michael's students, but now I get to paint with blue.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, let's go ahead and let's just take a 5-minute, or do you guys want a 10-minute break? And then we're going to go look at our Padlet page and see if there's any questions we can answer. And then with what time we have left, I will visit a less than good underpainting and see what we can do with that.
Okay, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, good?
Yeah.
All right, see you in 5.
Okay.